Now, something I love about gear companies in the outdoor industry is a willingness to try new things that are a little bit different, out of the ordinary, and maybe aren't the best idea, or sometimes they completely revolutionize an experience that you can have in the backcountry. And what I've got here is an item that is absolutely a different thing. It is something that is a first of its kind, and yes, this is a quilt, but this is the Alpha Bandit from UGQ. This is an Alpha Direct lined top quilt. So it is the Bandit top quilt from UGQ Outdoor with an Alpha Direct liner that is sewn directly into the inside of the quilt. And I think that this is really interesting. I think it checks some really cool boxes of enhancing an experience that you can have in the backcountry. Let's get this buttoned up the way that a quilt is supposed to be and how it looks like on a sleeping pad, and walk through the pros and cons and just my initial experience with this Alpha Bandit from UGQ. Let's first walk through what the build of this Alpha Bandit is. What you have is a quilt that is 78 inches long and 55 inches wide, and it is a no taper quilt, which is really cool because it adds more space into the design of the quilt itself. Instead of being a bit more narrow in the footbox, so you have more space in the footbox, which is nice. It is also the zippered footbox with the drawstring. You have your clips for you to add your pad straps to it. And then this is filled with an 850 fill power down. And it's filled to an amount of 30 degrees comfort rating for the amount of down that's inside of the baffles. And then you get a 20-degree comfort rating, which from my testing so far, I would absolutely say that that is right on the money from the time that I've spent out with this and also the prototype that I used back in January. So the Alpha Direct that is sewn directly to the inside of the quilt adds that additional warmth and a huge amount of comfort to this quilt. It's really, really cool. I'm going to spend more time talking about that here in a minute when we go through all of the pros. But then additionally, it's got 2 ounces of overstuff of down into the baffles of the quilt, which then again just adds more of that warmth and gets you to that comfort rating. And the fabrics that are used, you have a 10 denier inner fabric that is inside of the Alpha Direct to give you that down-proof fabric so you don't have down coming through all the Alpha Direct. And then an MRS 20 denier fabric on the outside in this Moroccan blue. It's a beautiful color. It is nice and soft, and it's just a beautiful, like really well designed, very well constructed quilt that also has your dynamic tension control system. So this will just hug the sides of the quilt into you so that you are essentially reducing the amount of draft opportunity that you get with the quilt. And then you have your full neckline here that also cinches together with a snap, or a clip, I should say, one of those wafer clips for you to get it around your neck and really tighten up and just create a very warm and enjoyable sleeping experience because everything is all buttoned up and just nice and cozy. And then lastly, the weight of this quilt is 35 ounces. Now that is far from ultralight. It's far from what a lot of other top quilts are at in weight for a 20-degree comfort rating. I totally understand that. Not every piece of gear that gets made for outdoor use needs to check every single box for everybody out there that's using it. There are more specialty items that are specific for certain activities, and there are things that are more general. And what you choose to use is checking boxes of what kind of experience you want to have. If you are looking to save as much weight as possible, this isn't going to be the quilt that you want to get. There are other options that will check the boxes of saving all of that weight. But if being as comfortable and as warm as you possibly can be without having a liner that you stick inside that gets all bunched up and twisted and makes for an uncomfortable sleeping experience, then going with something like this absolutely becomes an option, and something that I'm willing to carry the extra weight for the added comfort and essentially like a guaranteed warmth opportunity that this provides. One of the things that I've seen people comment, because I did share the prototype of this in a video back in January after I was using it and testing it for a few nights, and several people were saying that it's going to get dirty really easy, and it's going to, because it's a delicate fabric, it's going to fall apart, and then you have the issue of areas of the Alpha Direct that is like falling apart, while other places it's just fine because the material itself is sewn directly into the baffle lines of the quilt. So when you have maybe an area around snaggletooth, nasty toes, just take care of your toenails. That's the easy fix. But it does come down to the fact that take care of this because it can be a little bit more delicate than some other fabrics. But it's not so delicate that it is worse than using a 10 denier or a 7 denier ultralight fabric. So keep that in mind that yes, this can snag, this could run on Velcro, you could have nasty toenails and not taking care of that, you could rip holes in it. That's all things that can happen, but anything can happen to outdoor gear. Backpacks that rub on like canyon walls in sandstone and on trees, getting snagged on blowdowns and everything. Like, gear is going to take a beating, but try to take care of it and it will do what it's supposed to do for you and what it's designed to do as well. Now, on a personal level, with the design of this, because it is such a new concept, it's such a new thing that has never been done before, to have this sewn into a top quilt or a sleeping bag, there's a limitation on the customization that you can do. Now, UGQ Outdoor is known for having a myriad of custom options available on their quilts, whether it's footbox styles, to the width of the quilt, to the amount of overstuff, the fabric choices, the printing of fabric, so many custom options that you can really personalize it. But because this is such a one-of-a-kind thing, there are aspects to this quilt that I don't necessarily love, and that is that it has a zippered footbox. I would way rather have a fully insulated footbox that UGQ has, that on my other Bandit quilt that I have that I absolutely just love to death, it has that fully insulated footbox. And maybe at some point those more custom options will come into play. There is some limitation with the way that the Alpha fabric, the Alpha Direct fabric, plays and stretches, and the biases of it and the width of it also. So you're adding additional work and seams to be able to do wider quilts, longer quilts. So there's limitations. And so maybe I'm not getting the ideal sleep experience from this as I would from my other quilt, but I will absolutely tell you that the time that I've spent sleeping in this so far, last night, for example, 34 degrees was the overnight low. It's the beginning of June, and I was roasty toasty in this thing. I didn't feel cold spots. And you're going to have like drafts no matter what with a quilt. And maybe your pad is not as insulated, but my feet were never cold. And I was just down into like basic layers. I wasn't like layered up and trying to overdo it. This is super, super warm because of what the Alpha Direct is. It's kind of three-dimensional. It traps those air pockets of your body heat, and it is very, very cozy. Like, inside of it, you feel like you are wrapped up in a blanket, as opposed to very often feeling like you're inside of a plastic bag. And when you're out on a hot day and you're sticky and kind of sweaty from multiple days of hiking, getting into something like this, that sure, it's going to get dirty, but you can wash it and take care of it like anything else. It's just so nice to get into this and not feel like you are sticking to the fabric and it being a problem. Now, you could absolutely also run a separate liner that is Alpha Direct or some other material into the quilt, and that's going to function just fine as well. But my big issue with those is it's another thing to get into. It's another thing that is going to get twisted up with your legs, and as you move around from side to side as a side sleeper, back sleeper, to the other side, it just is not a good sleeping experience from the liners that I've used. I don't like using separate liners inside of my bags. Awesome sleeping experience, very comfortable, very cozy, and just traps a lot of heat and makes for a really, really enjoyable sleep experience because of that. Again, mosquitoes going crazy. We need to be done here. The Alpha Direct lined Bandit top quilt is really stinking cool. And yeah, it's not perfect. It's not going to be the right choice for everybody, but it is really neat to see a brand try something different and put it out there for people to use. And if it is a huge fail, we'll know about it. If it's not a huge fail, it's going to be one of those things that potentially revolutionizes the way that we sleep in the backcountry. So there you go. That's the Alpha Bandit from UGQ Outdoor. I do want to thank UGQ for giving me this to test, to try, and to share with you guys. It's really exciting to have had the opportunity to use the prototype quilt back in January and to now have the full production model and to test it and share that experience with you. No money was exchanged to make this video, but they did supply this quilt for free. Anyway, thanks guys. We'll catch you on the next one. See you later.